what do you think about this? Because we know, I know you've got experience. I've tried several back in the old days where 2 and 3 children in a single family have been molested, and trying to work through those stories. Very, very difficult witnesses. Would you be worried at this point if you were Tom Sneddon?
I'd be worried from the beginning of this case. As I've said all along, this is a difficult case, and Tom Sneddon has made the decision to bring a difficult case to trial because of his desire to, keep future children from being molested, protect people. So, it is difficult, and you would be worrying about this. But what the prosecution has to do is it has to talk about this evidence in the right way during opening and closing arguments or statements. It's the way that it's presented. Also, the way that he prepares these witnesses is crucial. I haven't been in the courtroom to watch this. I'm hearing things that disturb me a little bit about perhaps the presentation of these children. Sneddon cannot hang his hat on anything fact that these children say. He's got to speak in general terms. One of the things about this alarm that needs to be brought up, though, is why would you have an alarm in your room unless you were worried somebody was coming to walk up on you? Maybe that alarm is there because he doesn't want people to disturb him or find him in the process of molesting a child. And the other thing that you have to ask is, was the alarm on this particular day?
The kid says it was. The kid says it went off both times.
Well, okay. But, the thing is, there's a lot of things that the prosecution can do to defeat that by further explaining to the jury about the alarm. They've been out to the crime scene. I'm sure that they have some explanations for this, but I'm a little more concerned about why that alarm was in that room in the first place.
Yeah, well, I think we can all make some assumptions about that, whether he's worried about being kidnapped or worried about being seen at a particular point. Mike Sidley, though, the boy on cross-examination was, I'll say tripped up, but again, it's perceived differently with children. Several times talked about lying, which I could understand. In the JCP's case, he said, I never saw my parents fight. My father never hit me. You can kind of go with that. He said, looking at the porn magazines, he identified one, and it was dated later than the incidents in question, and he sort of said, well, it was sort of like this one. How many of those instances does it take to really get this kid's credibility in question?
Well, I think what's most important, and I think the defense is going to try to establish, is that it was coached, that these ideas aren't his. And the more you can show that the ideas are suggestions to him from people, I think Tom Mesereau is going to go a long way to show that perhaps none of this happened. All these inconsistencies begin to build. You've got to be very careful when you cross-examine children, because jurors are going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and that you don't want to look too much like a bully. But if you can show that these kids have had ideas suggested to them, that the language isn't their own, that perhaps, they're embellished a little bit, I think Mesereau is going to go a long way towards showing that this actually didn't happen, and the kids got some misperception of what actually was going on.
Yeah, Diane, you do have the problem about the child. What about handling the lies, there be in questioning or in argument, because the state, that this is a primary witness. The accuser is going to be a primary witness, and yet children have built-in difficulties testifying.
They do. Tom Sneddon, I'm sure, understands that. He understood going into this trial. You can't unring a bell. The children are going to have, statements that are inconsistent. That's very common for child molestation cases. What's really important here is that Tom Sneddon doesn't hang his hat on every single fact. When he gets in closing arguments, he's got to make concessions. He's going to have to make concessions with these children's mother, things like that. But this case is not going to be made by the prosecution solely based on testimony. What they're going to do is they're going to look at all of the evidence, including the documentary where Michael Jackson makes those statements on the air, probably some prior bad acts involving victims that have stories very similar to the case here, all types of corroborating evidence. That's the only way that these cases are made. They're very rarely made just upon the credibility of a child. Children are difficult, very difficult to watch and determine whether or not they're telling the truth. It's the corroborating evidence. Tom Sneddon has to keep his competitive spirit. He's got to keep going forward, understanding this is he's got some bumps along the road, but keep going.
All right, let me ask Diane a question real quick, and then I want to get to Mike's comment on this. Diane, we're hearing the boy, the accuser, had whined. He was snoring possibly in this.